Am I the asshole for being upset that my wife frequently mentions Trump in our family prayers? Let me start with some context. I am 32, have always considered myself politically neutral. I grew up in a small Midwestern town where politics didn't come up much, and I preferred to stay out of debates. My wife, Sarah, is 25, however, is the polar opposite. She's been hardcore MAGA since 2016. Her social media is full of political rants, and she's even made some uncomfortable comments in public. One time, she asked my coworker, a guy I've known since we were kids, if he was documented. I laughed awkwardly at the time to defuse the situation, but it wasn't funny. Still, I usually let her views slide because I didn't think they were affecting me personally. That changed last month. One night, I overheard Sarah putting our 5-year-old son to bed. She finished her usual prayer for Mommy, Daddy, Grandpa, and then casually added, and Trump. I was so confused. Why was she praying for a random politician like he was a family member? I asked her about it later, and she immediately went on the defensive, saying Trump was persecuted and needed our prayers to fend off the enemy. I thought it was weird but decided not to push it. Since then, though, it's escalated. She now adds Trump to asterisk every prayer, even saying, "Bless Trump, Amen," at the end of grace before meals. She does it so quickly that I barely have time to react. At first, I thought it was a quirk, but now it feels like she's doing it deliberately to annoy me. The breaking point came last week. My dad, who's 77, suffered a stroke and was rushed to the hospital. That night, I said a heartfelt prayer with Sarah and my son, asking for healing and strength for my dad. Before I could finish, Sarah added, "And bless Trump." I snapped. I told her she was being completely inappropriate and disrespectful by dragging politics into a prayer for my dad. Her response? She said I was being overly sensitive and accused me of censoring her beliefs. The situation got even worse after my dad passed away a few days later. He suffered a major stroke in the hospital and didn't make it through the night. My family was devastated, and Sarah initially seemed supportive. When I led a prayer for my dad, she didn't mention Trump, and I was relieved. But later that night, as we got ready for bed, I thanked her for keeping politics out of the prayer. That's when all hell broke loose. She immediately got defensive, asking, "Why would you even think I'd bring up Trump at a time like that? Do you really think I'm such a terrible person?" I reminded her that she had done it when my dad had his first stroke, and she tried to excuse it by saying she didn't realize how serious it was at the time. I told her that any stroke involving my dad was serious to me, and she stormed out of the room. Here's where I really messed up. I tried to get her to understand how I was feeling by showing her the post I had made about the situation on Reddit. She read the post, along with the comments, and her face turned bright red. "So this is how you see me?" she yelled. "You think I'm some crazy, racist caricature who worships Trump more than my own family?" I tried to explain that I just wanted an outside perspective, but she was already furious. She said the comments were unfair and that I had made her look like a monster. Now she's barely speaking to me. She says I've humiliated her and made her feel like an outsider in her own family. I don't know how to fix this. On one hand, I feel justified for being upset about her behavior, but on the other hand, I feel like I've poured gasoline on an already raging fire. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Asterisk top comments. Asterisk comment 1. Dude, your wife has been showing you who she is for years. The question is, are you really neutral, or are you just okay with her behavior as long as it's not directed at you? You're not the asshole for being upset about the Trump prayers, but you've let this slide for far too long. It's time for some serious self-reflection. Comment 2. She literally asked your coworker if he was documented, and you just laughed it off? That's not political neutrality, that's enabling bad behavior. And now she's raising your son with these same beliefs. You should have set boundaries a long time ago. Comment 3. Not the asshole for being upset about your wife dragging Trump into a prayer about your dad. But seriously, how are you surprised by this behavior? This is who she's been all along, and now it's affecting you directly. Time to have a real conversation about your values and your relationship. Comment 4. She's not praying, she's campaigning. You have every right to draw the line. But showing her the Reddit post? Rookie mistake, my friend. Now she feels like she's being ganged up on. Good luck with that.
So here's the deal. I had a mouse in my apartment. A mouse. I know, gross, right? But before you judge, let me just say, I live in an old building with questionable maintenance, so these things happen. Anyway, I'm terrified of mice. Like, I'd rather wrestle a bear than deal with one of these tiny demons. Naturally, my first thought was to call my neighbor Kelly. She's cool, has a grumpy tabby cat named Mr. Whiskerton, and cats are supposed to be mouse-catching machines, right? Problem solved. Kelly agreed, handing me Mr. Whiskerton with an amused smile. He's lazy, she said, but he might surprise you. Famous last words. I set him loose in my living room where I'd last seen the mouse. I'm perched on the counter, broom in hand, ready for a showdown. Mr. Whiskerton? He saunters in like he owns the place, sniffs the air once, and promptly flops down in the middle of the room. I'm not kidding, he starts grooming himself like he's prepping for a photo shoot, not a battle. Meanwhile, I see the mouse. It's peeking out from under the couch, bold as brass, and I swear it smirks at me. I'm losing my mind at this point. I grab the broom, determined to at least scare the mouse into moving, thinking maybe that'll wake Mr. Whiskerton up. But no, the mouse darts back under the couch, and Mr. Whiskerton gives me this slow, judgmental blink, like, why are you stressing? This is fine, but then it gets worse. Around midnight, I hear this rustling in the kitchen. I tiptoe over, armed with a flashlight and my trusty broom, and what do I see? Mr. Whiskerton and the mouse. Together. I'm not joking. Mr. Whiskerton is sitting there like some smug mob boss while the mouse nibbles on a stray cracker. They're just chilling. It's like I walked into a secret meeting I wasn't supposed to see. The drama doesn't end there. As soon as I gasp, the mouse freezes and then scurries up the counter. Mr. Whiskerton, instead of chasing it, just flicks his tail like, relax, it's taken care of. I'm officially losing my mind at this point. I grab Mr. Whiskerton, plop him on the counter, and shout, do something. He stretches, yawns, and jumps off the counter. Straight up abandons me. Meanwhile, the mouse has disappeared into the darkness, probably plotting my demise. The next morning, I return Mr. Whiskerton to Kelly. When I tell her what happened, she laughs so hard she's crying. Yeah, he's more of a diplomat than a hunter, she says. A diplomat? Lady, your cat just brokered a treaty with my enemy. I haven't seen the mouse since, but I feel its presence. I'm pretty sure it's hiding in the walls, biding its time. And as for Mr. Whiskerton? I'm convinced he's some kind of underground mouse kingpin. I've started Googling apartments in other states. Maybe other countries. It's not worth the risk.